Hello, beautiful people, and how are we all doing today? For those of you returning, I want to say thank you, and for those of you that are new to my channel, I want to say welcome. This is Skelly by Nature. I am Skelly, and here we talk about things all natural. So, with today, we're going to be talking a little hydroponics. This is something, are you looking for something that you can have natural herbs, natural spices, some lettuce, maybe some kale sitting ready for your family all year round? This is the way you're going to be able to do it. And I'm going to show you. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to do this. So first, one of the biggest questions I get when I do talk about hydroponics is, of course, what is hydroponics? A lot of people don't know what hydroponics is. And what hydroponics is I'll tell you this, it's the future of what farming is going to be all about. And you'll understand why. So, what is hydroponics? Hydroponics basically is growing your stuff in water. Okay, no soil involved, no mediums other than just water. And what is the advantage of growing in hydroponics? Well, one of the advantages is, like I said, you can grow anywhere. Okay, so this could be something you can grow indoors. You can have something like an easy setup that I'm going to show you how to do today indoors, and this way you can have growth and herbs and spices and things to cut as you need, and have fresh herbs and spices and fresh lettuce, and grow it all year round. So the another advantage you get with hydroponics is you actually use less water. It's kind of funny to think that, here we have a big bucket of water, but you, instead of being watering your soil and losing some of that water in the soil, this water here stays contained and it is being used all the time, so you end up using less water in the long run. So the other nice thing about hydroponics is you tend to have a more sterile environment. With a more sterile environment, you have less need for pesticides, partially because you're not growing it in the ground. A lot of the units and systems, if you're indoors, obviously there's less bugs inside your house. Same thing with being outdoors. There's not the plant being lying on the ground, so you don't have a lot of the ground insects bothering your plants. So this allows for you to get away with using less pesticides or even no pesticides in general. The other nice thing about hydroponics is it takes up less space. As you can see, I have a small little unit container here, and I have 8 spots that I can have herbs and spices in lettuce. Now, if this was a soil grow and I had these in containers, I would probably be taking up maybe 3 to 4 times more space with containers. So this you're allowed to have better space because when you're growing in soil, your plant roots grow out, looking for resources. Whereas in the water, the resources are in the water, so that the roots can stay a little more contained. So you're using less space. The other nice thing about hydroponics is because we are putting our fertilizer into the water, we're having direct contact with the root system, and with that we're doing a direct feed into our plant, so that allows for us to use less of a nutrient. And so another advantage with hydroponics is you get faster grows. What would take 70 days in a soil grow, you could probably have done in 45 to 50 days in hydroponics, even quicker if you do things right. So the other nice thing with hydroponics is it's easier to control your nutrients. When you're feeding soil, you lose some of that into the soil. With, again, where we have the nutrients being supplied to the water, it's more direct. And with that being more direct, you end up with a healthier plant and you end up with bigger yields. So you can get more tomatoes or more peppers or more growth as far as herbs and spices, as you can make your cuts to grow back faster. So those are the advantages of hydroponics. So let's get right into what is needed for hydroponics. There's some things that we're gonna need. for simple hydroponics. And what you can do is go down to your hardware store. A lot of your hardware stores will have these supplies. If you got a grow shop near you or a garden center, they may also have a lot of these supplies that you can get. So those are the places that you would go to. So let's go through some of the things that you're going to need. So obviously the first thing that you're going to need to do is pick what you want to grow and find yourself some seeds. Another good spot to find seeds is if you have a local dollar store. Sometimes early in the spring or late in the fall or throughout the year, you'll find that some of these places will actually carry seeds at a really good rate. Typically a pouch like this is about $1.25, $1.50. You go to your dollar store, sometimes you can pick them up for $1. So that's a good thing, so keep your eye out there. So seeds, make sure you choose what you want. Go find your seed packets and you'll have that. So another thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a container, and all our container needs to do is, one, needs to hold water, and it also needs to block sunlight. This way the sunlight doesn't come in and affect our water in any way. So as you see, I have just a simple container that we all have. This is just a shelf container, a rail container that I'm going to be using and showing you how to do this today with. The other thing too is we're going to need some styrofoam, some simple styrofoam. This is just packaging styrofoam that I got. This is a little on the thicker end. You can go thinner if you need to go thinner. And what we're going to do is we would take this and cut it to a little shorter or close to the same size as our container. And as you see, what I did is I have circles here. And another thing that you're going to want to do is go down to your hardware store and you're going to want to find yourselves net containers. Okay, these are little net potters. They have a bunch of holes in it, in the side and the bottom, and that's where our roots are going to grow out. And once you have these, I have a 3-inch container, but I also run a larger setup, so I use a larger one. They do carry smaller ones that are, 1 inch or 2 inch. Those are fine too, depending on what you're growing. And what you're going to do is when you have your foam, you can see I got some circles there, so I'll show you what to do with those in a little bit. So the net containers, you're also going to want to find yourself a bag of hydroponic stones. These are just simple stones that have been dried out and heated up, and they are pretty light and they have some porous in them, and that allows for the nutrients to be held in some water. The other thing that you're going to need to do is find yourself a nutrient line. Okay, I'm one that I've been doing this for many years, and I've used General Hydroponics, and I've had great success with them. I also like General Hydroponics. They are one of the longest companies around. They know what they're doing, and they've got a great product line. But there's other good ones out there like Fox Farm and other great ones out there. So see what your local hardware store has. Another thing that you're going to need is a bottle of calcium and magnesium. Okay, that's just an extra that I like to use. And then another thing that you're going to need is a pH up and a pH down. Okay, and I'll explain those later on. Another thing that you're going to need is you're going to need measuring cups or a tool to measure your nutrients with. You can go, when you get a large system like I have in my greenhouse, I'm using a lot of milliliters, so I have a cup. You can also go with spoons similar to this. That's another way. But when you're starting off in a small unit like this, I actually prefer using a syringe. The reason I like a syringe is it's a little more accurate. You can see exactly how much you're pulling out. Plus, it's a lot easier to extract, say, if you only need a half a milliliter, whereas a half a milliliter in the spoons is a little more difficult. If you can get your hand on a syringe with a little needle, that's also a great thing to have. So another thing that you're going to need to have is you're going to want to find yourself a pH meter. Okay, this is a nice pH meter. They can range anywhere from $10 up to $80, $90, $100. All depends on how crazy you want to go. But this is going to read your pH balance of your water. It's also going to tell you the temperature of your water. And so this is something that is very good to have on hand because we need to keep those levels in balance and in check. So like I said, you want to pick up one of these. The next thing that you're going to need is a ppm meter. Now what's a ppm meter? ppm is parts per million, and what that is doing is it's actually reading what's solubles that are already in the water for your plant to suck up and use. And it's also very important to have one of these because our ppm levels will be changing throughout our time of growth, and so you're going to want to keep these monitored and keep those also in check as well. So that's another thing that you're going to need. And something, if you're going to be growing indoors, you plan on growing indoors, then what you're going to want to do is find yourself an LED light. This light I have here is the one that I use. This is just a simple, cheap, cost me about 10 bucks. They come in different, this is very old as well. They do carry ones that are straight, so whatever you decide to use for your container, you're going to want to find an LED light that's appropriate that covers that area. So, and those again can run from anywhere from cheap to $10 to $15 and all the way up to a couple $1,000. So depending on what you're doing, depends on what type of LED light you need. So another extra thing that you may want to have on hand is an air generator. Now again, this is a very large air generator. This is one that I use in my big unit. They come in a lot smaller, so as you see, this is an air generator, and what this is going to do is pump air and oxygen into our water. That way it's supplying more oxygen to your plant. The more oxygen your plant has, the better growth you're going to have. And with one of these, you're going to need some hoses if it doesn't come with hoses. But there's also, at the end of these hoses, you're going to need an air diffuser. And air diffusers, again, come in different sizes and shapes. This one here is just a small little disc. This is a little 3-inch disc, a 4-inch disc, used for smaller units. Once your unit gets a little bigger, you may want to go to, say, something like a stone. This is an air diffused stone. And when you get into big buckets, the other thing that you can go with is, like I have here, this is called the spider diffuser, and this just diffuses air throughout the whole entire hose system. And this is, as you can see, round, and it's used for buckets. So they come in different sizes, different shapes, and again, just, you can do your research. You can drop me a question down below, and I'll answer you to what you need accordingly if you like, or just ask somebody at your hardware store or your grow shop. They should easily know what to give you. So those are the things that we're going to need today. Another thing that I like to have is I have this bucket, right, this bottle right here. This is a bottle that holds 1 1/3 gallon of water. Now the reason I use this is because when you get your nutrients and it tells you how much to add to 1 gallon of water, you want to cut that down, actually 1/3. Okay, so if it says to add 3 milliliters of whatever to a gallon of water, go with 2. And the reason is a lot of times when they tell you what they tell you on the label, usually tends to be a little on the high end. So you're better off with lower fertilizer or lower nutrients than higher nutrients. It's a lot better to be safe than sorry. So the reason I have the 1 1/3 gallon is because I know that with 1 1/3, I can go with whatever label, whatever they're telling me on this label. But if you're going to use, say, a 1 gallon container, then keep in mind that you want to cut the nutrients is down by 1/3. Not on your pH up and pH down. That you will learn how to balance that out. That all depends on how high or low you need to bring your levels up, is how much you're going to use. So that's the stuff that we will need for our hydroponic grow. I will put a list down below for you all, in the description down below, and that way you can have a list right there and ready to go to the store and get what you need. So with that being said, let's get right into how to set up a hydroponic setup. Now, the nice thing about hydroponics is it's real simple, and it doesn't take a whole lot. Like I showed you earlier, I have this container. You can get the container as long as it holds water and it's blocking sunlight. That's all you really need. And then, like I said, you're going to need a piece of styrofoam. And what we're going to do with the styrofoam is, like I said, once you get your container, your net containers, I just took my styrofoam and I put my net container down and I traced the circle around, and I traced the circle up here, and then I traced the circle on the bottom, and I cut out what is the bottom circle. That way I know, as long as I have a rim, and you'll see I'll pop these out. Now we have a bunch of holes in our styrofoam, and you want it big enough that you can fit your net container in while it sticks a little bit out on the bottom. You can see I got a little on the bottom sticking out here. This way the roots can grow out the bottom, but yet your net container is still contained and is in place and is not going to move around too much. So with that being said, so we got our container, and we now have our cutouts, and we now have our netted pots. Okay, so that's basically all you really need to have a container. And you can make this as large as small as you want, and to whatever your needs are. And so now what we're gonna do is, I already have a bottle of water here that's set and ready to go. I already have my nutrients in there. All I really use is I use a 3-bottle nutrients. So I have a micro, I have a grow, and I have a bloom. Sometimes you can find a one bottle that serves all of these. Sometimes you can have this. And as you learn more and more about hydroponics, you can step your game up. I actually run a 22-bottle nutrient line. So there's 22 bottles that I use to supply the nutrients that I need, that I like to have for my plants inside my big grow. So we're just going to take and we're going to add this water right to our containment. And as you see, I'm just pouring it right in. I happen to have just, this actually fits just enough water. What you want to do is you want to fill your water up. At first, when you're first starting off and there's not much root system, you want to bring that water right up to the very bottom of your netters, the net pots. That way you'll see that when your plugs are being used. Oh, so the other thing that you're going to need is a starter kit that has plugs, and that's how you're going to get your seed started. I will include down below in the description my very first video, which does explain how to get seeds started. So if you need help with that, feel free to go down below. The video is a little extent, but in the very beginning is just my intro. You can skip if you want and go right to the how to germinate seeds properly. I give you multiple different methods of how to germinate seeds. And once you start germinating seeds, and I personally, when I'm running a hydro system, I like to use plugs. Now, you may ask what a plug is. Well, all a plug really is this is just cocoa, and they come in all different types. You have, wool ones and Berbers, and so this is just a cocoa, and it's just a little containment that you sink your seed into. You put it off to the side and you let it grow, and eventually you end up with, as you can see, I got a little bit of a tiny little start of a parsley plant here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our netted pot and we're going to place our plug inside that netted pot like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some hydrogen stones and we're just going to place them all around, okay, and fill this cup right up. Now, when I fill this cup, I like to fill it right up. You don't want any sunlight or air getting into accessing the water. So try to really block those holes up nice, and I like to cover up that plug. So as you can see, I now have a little plant just sticking out of the stones. And as you see, there's no root system there, so that's the reason we want to bring our water up. That way our plug that our plant is sitting in will suck up that water and stay moist. Once you get into a couple weeks of growth, you're going to start to see some roots coming out the bottom, and that's when you can do two things. One, when you transfer to the next thing of water, you're going to pour it out, the water you have existing, and then you're going to add fresh water. When you add the fresh water, you're going to want to keep it a little below the net container, and that way you have a little area of oxygen that your plant can take and use that as its oxygen. Or if you do keep it up to the level and you go right to the netted potter, that's when you're going to need to supply oxygen to your plant by using an air generator. So now that we have our containment, you're going to do this and fill up all your little spots with whatever it is you need to grow. So I have my parsley plant here. And so one of the things that you're going to do, like I said, is once you finish this off, two things that we want to pay attention to is you're going to want to know what your pH balance is. Your pH balance, you should be running somewhere between 5.5 to 6.5. That's the areas that allow for your plant to feed on. If you go a little higher or a little lower, what's going to happen is if you go too low, there's going to be certain elements that your plant won't be able to suck up. And if you go, same thing if you go a little bit higher. So keep your pH balance between 5.5 and 6.5. And when you need to make an adjustment, that's what your pH balance is for. So the other thing too is that's very important that a lot of people don't pay attention to is temperature. Okay, the temperature of your water is very important. If you run your water too hot, you can actually burn out the root system. If you run too cold, then your plant actually will kind of not suck in the nutrients that are fully needed. So the temperature that we like to be around is, again, 65 to about 75 degrees, and that's what your pH meter is going to help you with. It will not only tell you the pH balance, but it will also tell you the temperature of your water, and you make adjustments accordingly. If you need to add a little cold water or some ice cubes or something like that to bring the temperature down, that's fine. If you're storing it in a house, you typically will stay within that range because of where your natural air is. But if you're, say, running a hydroponic setup like I do outside, and here it is in July, you're going to have a difficult time maintaining that water temperature. So a lot of times I have to flush out water and add more water just to keep the balance proper. So that's important, okay? So the other thing we're going to talk about is ppms, okay? Now, when you start your grow and you're dealing with, seed, that's in your starter kit, you're running somewhere in the 350 to 400 ppm level, okay? And that's because when you're running seed, it just really needs to stay moist. It doesn't need a whole lot of nutrients at this point. But then you start getting to what we call a seedling, which is basically your plant is grown, but there's not much of a rooting system to it yet. So it's considered a seedling. It's still a baby. But when you get to this point, we're running a ppm level of 400 to 500. And then the following week, we're going to be changing out this water again, and we're going to be now where you're probably going to start seeing roots in the bottom of your cup when you pull it out, or when you pull this right out, you're going to see roots kind of hanging out the bottom. So now we're starting to get into early veg. And in an early veg, we're going to be running at 650 to 750 ppms. And so that's the importance of your ppm meter, is because each week our ppms are going to be stepping up as our plant grows, until we get to the end and then we need to say do a flush out or an end and flush out that. And so that's very important, again, why we need our ppm meter. So I will include down below, again, a chart that will tell you what ppms the ppm range that you're going to want to be in during different types of grow. So for instance, if you have a grow that's a 70-day to completion, you're looking at 9 weeks of growth. So what you're going to want to do is, again, like I said, the ppm levels will be stepping up. So I will show you, and I'll put a chart down below for you all, and that should be good enough for you to understand how to do hydroponics. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all have good luck, and any questions, feel free, drop them down below. If you have any problems, feel free, drop me a message or a comment down below, and I will get back to you with an answer. And be patient, enjoy what you're doing, and enjoy the great benefit of your hard work by cutting beautiful and much more nutritional value to your cooking. And I would also like to invite you all to my Facebook group, which is called Nature Strong. There we also talk about natural remedies and different things by natural means, and so feel free, come join us and start up a conversation or join a conversation we might have going on. Also, I'd like to say, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. Also as well, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. There's going to be more. I deal with things like natural medicine, how to use herbs and spices for better health, how to grow different dog foods, like feeding your dog natural food and the benefits of natural health for your dog and for us humans. And there's going to be a lot more of natural remedies that we can find out in nature, like things like wild lettuce or chaga tea and chaga mushrooms and things like that. So there's a lot more videos to come. There's also, if you're new to my channel, feel free, go through. There's other videos that have been posted in the past. Feel free to go through those as well. And if this is something that you have some friends or family that would also enjoy this video, feel free, share this video, get this out. I would like as many people to understand this and get into this. Like I said, this will be the future of gardening. And again, I hope you all enjoyed this video. And until the next video, be beautiful, be awesome.